My grandfather never fought in a war. He was too young for the first great conflict in Europe, which took his father's brother, and too old for World War II, and he never held a position, say sheriff or lawyer, that placed him above other men. No, Charlie LeBeau worked the same unforgiving muscular jobs at the meat processing plant, the car parts shop, the Stevenson shoe factory that the other men did, but he always seemed larger than them, heroic. He was the best ball player in the region, a third baseman pursued by the White Sox, as his father had been 20 years before. But also like his father, he turned down the chance to enter the White Sox's minor league system because he wouldn't leave central Wisconsin, and because he refused to play for the team that had recently thrown the World Series. He won the state skeet shooting championship a half-dozen times. I still have a letter, dated 1935, from the Thomason Gun Works Company, congratulating him on his perfect score in that year's contest and offering him a lifetime supply of free ammunition. He was simply, consistently, the best shot in the state of Wisconsin, as he proved every fall by bagging more ducks, grouse, pheasants, and deer than his family could ever possibly eat. The gun case in my grandparents' dining room was his centerpiece, his shrine, filled with weapons of every size and capacity, some functional, some collector's pieces purely for display, like the Springfield rifle his uncle had used in the Great War. He also had 3 bows, regal, primal-looking things, and another case for his collection of fishing rods. Sometimes I would take out one of these rifles or bows just to hold it and feel the power it contained. But it wasn't his skill with weapons that set Charlie apart. It was the way that other people related to him. Men gathered around him at Jimmy's coffee shop or Earl's gun store or in his own house to hear him expound on everything from the proper training of hunting dogs to the town's new traffic light. Women lowered their eyes and blushed when he was near, and he paid back and increased this devotion in 1,000 small ways, by changing tires or plowing sidewalks for the widows in town, by welcoming unattached men into his house for Friday suppers, by taking young boys to the baseball fields to work on their games, or out into the deepest woods to hunt. My grandfather was a man, in a vital, fundamental way that grown men simply aren't today, at least not in the city, and maybe that was why he was so disappointed in my father. Stuart LeBeau was as different from Charlie as a boy could possibly be, studious, dreamy, and unathletic. He hated hunting and didn't care much for fishing or dogs, and while it wouldn't be exactly true to say he disliked sports, playing catch did not enliven him as it did the other boys in town. Stuart read and spent his time with a few other serious, awkward boys, and behaved well enough in school to generally avoid having his knuckles rapped by the nuns with their ever-ready rulers. He was closer to his mother, my grandmother, who was glad to have produced a child she could relate to. They talked of books together, and he helped her with shopping and chores. Stuart, like his father, was born between wars. He was too young for World War II in Korea and past the age for Vietnam, yet, unlike his father, he had no desire or ability to make up for what Charlie considered unfortunate timing, striking the second generation in a row. But while he was never of the town, not in the blood-deep way my grandparents were, he never did anything to openly defy it until his final, huge act of rebellion, which was leaving. He had applied to the University of Wisconsin without telling anyone. The nuns, who believed that the world outside of Deerhorn was sinful and corrupting, would not have approved, and he was the only boy in town who went to college. In Madison, much to his parents' distress, he acquired new clothes, new concerns, and a strange new set of friends. My grandparents' dismay must have multiplied by 1,000 when he decided to marry my mother. If leaving Deerhorn was so distasteful that both my grandfather and great-grandfather passed up a chance to play in the majors, if the town was so insular that my father's departure was seen as defection, if it had never, in all the years of its existence, been home to a soul who wasn't German, Polish, Norwegian, or French-Canadian, imagine the shock of having to contemplate a daughter-in-law from Japan. And my mother, Reiko Tanizaki, was not Japanese-American. She didn't eat hamburgers or say the Pledge of Allegiance.